One of the things that we don't talk about too often is your guard. And I know that people cover how to hold your guard and if you're working a specific style and all of that. But we don't really talk about guards in general. We take it for granted. And I actually think that there is something to be said about why we have guards in the first place. Like, what is the purpose of having a guard? And yes, what you're thinking is probably true, but there's also something else. And maybe you're smart and you're thinking this too. So let's start with the obvious, right? A guard, by its very nature, a guard is a ready position that is essentially designed, like its namesake, to be ready to act either in defense or offense from that position. And that's why so many different shaped guards happen, right? And this is no more apparent anywhere than in the sword world. When you are working with swords, there are multiple guard positions because you have a, quite frankly, small piece of steel that is trying to cover the entirety of your body. That's just not possible. So you end up having to have multiple positions that move around based on whatever predictive model that you're working on to make sure that you have the shortest reaction time to defend yourself as well as the most effective line of attack that you could possibly have from that position. And that's fine, right? That's like the basic thing. There was a great video. I'm not even going to go searching for it. There was a great video done by some dude in his garage that he was trying to talk about why do we keep our hands high versus keeping our hands down, and he built these little like piston actuators so there would be literally zero tell versus like a human throwing a punch, and he would try to block the thing. And he found that basically with his hands down, he just couldn't react. And he did the math out to figure out like the average time. There are studies that kind of show how fast a trained boxer throws punches and things like that. So these are kind of known numbers, even if they're kind of vague and fuzzy ballpark numbers. They don't give you everything exactly. The likelihood that you're going to come up against the guy that's the fastest puncher in the world is extremely low. So these general numbers are generally fine. And so, he did this little experiment and he basically found, with his hands down, he couldn't react in time because we already know, and I talked about this in a video a while back, and again, I'm not even going to link this because this is just, like, you can go digging for it, but we talked about reaction times and whatnot. And like in order, right, your audio reaction times are fastest. Your touch reaction times are second, your peripheral reaction times are third, and your direct vision is fourth. That's kind of like your order of reaction times, provided everything is in working order. Obviously, if you're disabled in any of those particular cases, that's going to change things. And if you're Daredevil in certain cases, I guess that's going to change things as well. Nevertheless, I guess not in Daredevil's case because that would literally just cut out the vision. But you know what I'm saying, right? The point is that there's a lag time between the input and you're following your reactive output. And so we know that we want kind of hands up and ready or weapons up and ready in order to intercept or to initiate an attack in basically the shortest line possible, right? We want our attacks to be as quick as possible because we want to be able to foil their guard. We want to come in under that lag time, and most people are actually capable of moving faster than that lag time. It's just we have all sorts of other confounding factors like giveaways, tells, and whatnot that get in the way of that. And that's another story for another day. But we want our guards up simply for the sake of, obviously, for effective defense and offense. And you would think case closed. But here's where I wanted to go with it, right? Because that's like the beginner's version. That's the version that tells us why we do things a certain way. But you'll notice one of the things that I said doesn't correspond with some of the guard positions we hold. And that is the fact that sometimes we purposefully hold our hands down or in a low position. Why do we hold our hands down or in a low position or in a wide position? In swords, why do we use a long tail guard? Is that even a guard, right? Why do we use, the shoulder guard, the woman's guard from Fiore? Why do we use that? Right? And so in fencing, we call these invitations. A fairly famous Dan Inosanto quote, I haven't verified this, but I'm told it's a Dan Inosanto quote, and it's a good quote regardless of who said it. He was saying one of the differences between like Wing Chun and Silat is that Wing Chun would cover the center line, and in Silat they keep it open to play tricks, to lay traps. And that goes back to the idea of sword fighting, weapons fighting, right? What you do is you leave apparently open spots to bait your enemy in and lay a trap for them. And if that works out, and if that works in your favor, you end up having a jump, because what you do, by closing a trap is you hit them where they're not expecting to be hit. And that's actually a pretty powerful thing. But that's not actually the reason that's not the point that I'm trying to get to here. That's just like a symptom of it, or one application of it. No, what I really want to get to is the fact that whether you take a more open guard or a more closed guard, and closed everything down from just closing the center line in kind of a traditional open hand or bare knuckle boxing position, even just kind of an orthodox position. I know that's southpaw, but whatever. But if we're talking conventional or old school or whatever, these closed positions that kind of keep your vitals, which are all more or less along the lines of the center, your elbows are covering your ribs, these kind of things, whether you're taking a longer position for parrying or a shorter position for shelling and moving, all of that is fine. Or you're taking a more open position like a long guard or a hands down bait or something like that. They all do something very specific. And that very specific thing is they shorten your predictive model. And this is the point. The entire point of this video is the fact that your guards are helping you create a predictive model for your fighting. And the reason that works is people will generally go towards the path of least resistance, asterisk, because obviously people play tricks, and sometimes people will do things that are maybe not so efficient, but sometimes it's just because they have a blind spot. So it's not that they're doing something inefficient on purpose, they're doing something inefficient because they don't know better. And like I said, playing tricks, you might be adding steps, but the entire point of the trick is to create a low friction zone that you can sneak into. So creating a path of least resistance is just a path of least resistance with multiple steps, brush clearing as it were. But the point is that nature tends towards the path of least resistance. This is a fact of physics, and it honestly is really just, it's kind of like tied in with the law of entropy. Everything kind of wants to use and expend and be the least amount of energy possible. And that being the case, people are generally speaking not going to try to go through something that looks like a solid wall. They're generally going to try to sneak through an open window, an open door, something in that vein. And that makes sense, right? And we teach people to do that. We actually go out of our way to teach people to, close and open doors and to look for openings and to try to help, and to try to exploit mistakes that their opponents make and try to create mistakes in their opponents that will give them those low friction points to go in and kind of get a free move. And so when we take up a guard position, essentially what we are doing is we are very, very specifically trying to create a predictive model that is going to force our opponent into a less random, more predictable area of attack. And that makes things a lot easier for us, because if we reduce the choices that we have to sift through and we reduce the choices that our opponents can make, we make fighting easier. We don't want to suffer from paralysis of analysis, and we don't want to deal with the chaos or the randomness of trying to guess what an opponent's going to do when they have completely free choice of where they want to go, where they want to attack. We're constantly looking for ways to limit our opponent's options, and honestly to expand our own. But really, even expanding our own is not really the goal. It's more of being able to exploit the options that are in front of us. And we want to reduce any kind of mental strain, any kind of decision-making strain that's going to happen with that. It's the entire point of practicing technique and scenarios and sparring and everything in the first place, is developing these kind of implicit models, the muscle memory, so that everything kind of flows just right. So I want you to really think about that. The next time you're sparring, the next time you're training, think about, is your guard just some fixed object that you are going to always be working through? Or is your guard a valence field of possibilities, i.e., electrons and uncertainty principle and all of that? Is your guard more of a valence field that it can occupy any of those positions, but it does so for a reason, it does so for a purpose, it does so to create those opportunities for you, right? So keep that in mind, right? Your guard is helping your predictive model. And so yes, it serves a very basic physical, anatomical, tactical function, but it also serves that deeper function of helping us actually navigate the chaos so much simpler, so much more smoothly. All right, I am done talking, and I will talk to you guys later. Good journey. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share. Check us out on our other socials, and please head over to blacksunboxing.com to get a little more info, including how to contact us. Furthermore, if you are in the Phoenix area, please feel free to stop in, say hi, join in for a class, whatever. Also, if you ever see us cite sources, or just for additional content, please check out our Substack. That is where we put all of the sources we use in our videos and is a major part of this. Plus, it serves as a membership platform for long distance learning and for people who would like to support us but aren't local. We would greatly appreciate it if you signed up. Even just the free membership helps us out a lot. All right, I will see you guys in the next video. Good journey.